Hey, Suge. Welcome to another episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. If this is your first time tuning in for a little of this mayhem, welcome, darlings. Let me be the first to tell you what you've gotten yourself into. You see, Melanin Mayhem brings you the stories of some of the most heinous, diabolical, and downright audacious crimes committed by some melanated baddies that you've probably never heard of because our stories get ignored or downplayed by the mainstream media. And if it is covered, it's usually presented through a whitewashed lens of their version of what had happened. So, I took it upon myself to tell our stories of mayhem. You see, my mission in life is to dispel this pervasive myth that so many people believe, especially in our communities, that there are certain types of crimes that Black people do not commit. Child, that's got to be the biggest crock of bullshit out there. Please don't believe it, friend. Let me tell you, Black people been committing serial shenanigans since we got on this here planet. Just like the clans of the Caucasus Mountain peoples, oh yes, the same shit that they do, we do too. So go on ahead and get yourself comfortable because you are in for a real treat today, baby. Okay, New Orleans Nation, now that we have properly greeted our guests, now it's time for the love fest. What's good, fam? Y'all had a good week since the last time we had talked. I have, because you know what time it is, baby. It's Virgo season. It's Virgo season. Ow, ow, ow. We up in this thing for sure now. Man, I am counting down the days because the country girl is doing it big this year, you heard? I am running myself ragged, 200, because between the researching and the recording and working a little overtime for my excursions and whatever, when I tell y'all the country girl is tired, honey, I's tired, boss. But it's all worth it for my boo things, honey, because together we make magic happen, baby. And speaking of magic, did y'all see my post on social media about Melanin Mayhem hitting 250,000 streams? Oh my God. Yes, 250,000 streams, y'all. That's across all platforms. So no matter where you are listening to your favorite country girl, y'all are repping hard for me. And when I tell y'all that the New Orleans Nation is worldwide, I mean that we are all across the world, baby. I'm talking about the UK, Germany, Jamaica, South Africa, Canada. What's up, Norway, Australia? I'm headed that way too. Nigeria, Belgium, New Zealand, the Netherlands, and of course the United States. Y'all are putting up real numbers on the board for your girl. And oh my Lord, I am so thankful and so humbled by the way y'all show up and show out for your favorite country girl. Man, I appreciate y'all so much. Oh my God. Thank you for every episode that you listen to. Thank you for every time that you have shared this podcast with your peoples. Baby, let me tell you, I love y'all down real bad, man. We locked in like a mug now. And as far as church announcements this week, y'all know what it is. Same shit, different episode. Remember, the BTCC live show is coming October 18th right here in Atlanta. Get your tickets to hang out with me and my fellow Black True Crime Collective members. That would be the fabulous Melanin Mysteries, my homie, not my brother's keeper, and a sip of red rum with Brittany and Deja. Baby, we got a good show planned, and all we need is you. Tickets are available, and the link is in the show notes, as well as on the social media pages for Melanin Mayhem and the BTCC. Okay? And of course, while you are in the spending mood, go on ahead and check out Melanin Mayhem merch over at the website for the show. That's melaninmayhempodcast.com. Easy to remember, just like the name of the show, at a .com. And all right, that's all I got for the announcements. Again, I am just overjoyed about the 250K. I have been like floating on a cloud ever since that happened because, again, who knew? I just started this show, 16 months ago, April 2024. And in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought that people would have heard my voice, me doing my thing 250,000 times and counting. Ooh, y'all making me feel all tingly all over. All right. Stop, Nate. We got business to take care of today. So let's go ahead and get to it. Now, we all know that I try to bring y'all sensational stories of audacious crimes. And if I do say so myself, I do a pretty good job of that. And while I cover all types of stories, there are some that I tend to shy away from, and that would be gang-related shenanigans. Now, mostly because I don't want no smoke with anybody who might feel a certain kind of way about some shit I done said. You know what I'm saying? I mean, shit, I was raised up in a smaller city that was and is heavy on gang life. So I know firsthand how some people take gang business serious as a motherfucker. And gang business can sometimes be messy and chaotic, and anything might be taken as disrespect. So, you gotta treat it carefully. And y'all know the country girl can be a little reckless with my mouth. I call it like I see it. But again, that whole slip up and fuck around and disrespect somebody thing is a thing. So, I need to be cognizant of that because, fuck around and find out. We had that episode last week, right? And the country girl is not trying to fuck around and find out. You know what I'm saying? And let me tell you, I'm saying all of this to say this week, we gonna tiptoe gently through some gang shit because the story is interesting because of some legal shenanigans. It's gonna kind of blow your mind a little bit. I'm gonna tell the story and kind of walk y'all through how everything all went down and transpired. Now, mind you, I will only be focusing on the crimes that were proven in court and nothing else, darling, because baby, anything else ain't my business. Kind of like an episode of BMF though. If some of this shit actually happened that I have read about, ooh, my Lord, today, honey. But you can go down the rabbit hole yourself and read about it because I got links. I got links for you. So yeah, it's a gang thing, like I said, right? And in a gang, we're talking a bunch of people, but we are not talking about the gang organization itself. We are going to focus our attention on just 3 members of the crew, and one of which is the leader. I mean, why not? Who want to hear about a lowly corner boy's activities? I mean, if we're going to talk about some gang shit, let's talk about the head of the gang. And in addition to the leader, there are 2 more that some say were like the lieutenants to the leader of the gang in the thick of all the fuckery that was going on. Now, they were some bad motherfuckers. Shut your mouth. Like, woo, child. I'm low-key glad that they don't make gangsters like this no more. Cause honey, the tea I'm about to spill on our mayhem makers is definitely gonna have you saying, these niggas was audacious. The shit that they did, diabolical. And how they almost got a get out of prison free pass. Ooh, baby. But as always, there was some shit in the game. Thankfully, though, in this case. Woo, baby, let's go on ahead and get into some gangster shit, New Orleans Nation. Bringing to the front of the congregation, this week's Melanin Mayhem makers are Roger Lee Collins, William Bracey, and Murray Hooper, also known as the top dogs in the royal family. Okay, my loves, let's go on ahead and get on into this thing. Now, as usual, we don't know a lot about the background, upbringing, biographical information, none of that stuff on the dudes that we about to talk about today. The best I could do for you was the birthdays for a couple of the mayhem makers. Like, I know that William Bracey was born August 23rd, 1941. I know that Murray Hooper, aka Hoop, was born November 22nd, 1945. And Roger Collins, they call Roger Collins Cochise, and I just love that name, so he will be Cochise from here on out. When exactly Cochise was born, no idea. But I do know based on the age he was when he was in court, he was born in 1944. And all of these dudes were born and raised in Chi-Town. Yeah, Chicago repping in this bitch. At the end of all the mayheming, the police and the state got these niggas hemmed up in court for murder, aggravated assault, and a laundry list of shit. But before we can talk about how it all ended, we gotta go back to the beginning to see how they put this shit together, right? So, Now to set the scene properly, I've got to give you a teensy-weensy bit of gang history so that you know how these people came to be in the positions that they were in when the mayhem went down. So, the gang that these men belonged to was called the Royal Family, and it all started in 1972 in Statesville Prison. Now, basically, the Royal Family was created to be like a new gang comprised of heavy hitters from other gangs. So, think if Nino Brown and Franklin Sane and Big Meech and Stringer Bell and Avon Barksdale, etc., those type of people, if they all left their gangs individually to form a new, more powerful gang. So yeah, these guys were in prison together and they decided that, one-on-one, we're a beast, but together, we can be a whole ass problem. So yeah, that's how the Royal Family was formed. They were all about to get out, to be back on the streets at around about the same time, starting in like February of 1972. Well, at that time, the leader of the Royal Family was Julius Davis. No relation to me. At least I don't think so. Now, Julius and them got out and they proceeded to terrorize the city of Chicago and surrounding areas. Now, I did put links in the show notes if you want to get a deeper background on the gang's origins. But again, I'm not really trying to go that deep. I just want to give you enough so you know who and where we coming from. All right? So, Julius and them, they out here putting in serious work. Robberies are plentiful and the bodies are dropping because the foundational tenet of the Royal Family gang was to leave no witnesses. And this worked for them. They was surgical about that shit. They wore gloves so that they didn't leave no prints, and they had ski masks on to hide their identities. But after a while, you keep doing something over and over again. Sometimes some people get it in their head that, I can take a few shortcuts because I got this shit. Ain't nobody gonna fuck with me, feeling yourself or whatever. And apparently Julius, the HNIC, oh honey, he felt like he was King Kong and he gets sloppy. He pulls a caper with no mask, no gloves, and left a witness that identified him. And so now the cops is on that ass. But the gang, they wasn't about to let him get scooped up. But understand, they were pissed to the highest point of pistivity that this nigga done brought this heat on the gang and he wasn't following gang protocol. So this was something that they felt needed to be handled internally. You know what I'm saying? And allegedly, they handled that little business because Julius can't be the head of the snake and out here not following the rules that he set, right? When the police found Julius, oh baby, he was burnt to a crispity crunchity mess on June 18th, 1972. Like Julius had been shot 7 times before they charbroiled that ass. Ooh, shit. Baby Julius hadn't been on the streets but like 5 months before they disconnected him. But that lets you know, in the gang, anybody can get it if you fucking up, because baby, they was not playing with that ass. So now that the leader has been dethroned or deboned, whichever you want to say, the gang needs a new leader. And enter Roger Lee Collins, aka Cochise, also known as the Godfather. But y'all know I like that name, Cochise, and that's what I'm gonna be calling him. Well, Cochise was about their business, and he had the respect of the crew because, again, he didn't play the motherfucking radio. But allegedly, Cochise wanted to diversify the Royal Family's footprint to include murder for hire, as well as the drugging and the strong arming and intimidation tactics. Again, Cochise, he don't play about leaving nobody alive that might have seen, heard, or know anything about the shit that they was doing. No witnesses, no mercy. Fucking around under Cochise's administration, pillow talk could get you fucked up. So many instances where they being the gang members, were doing shit and somebody accidentally lived and said that they would testify, man, they would come up deader than a motherfucker before they could ever get to the stand. Or they would be intimidated like a motherfucker. Like there's a story, again, all of this is allegedly, that there was this mortician that was going to testify for the state, but because he was testifying, he was under 24/7 police protection. But he's a mortician. He got a job to do. So they are in the funeral home, the police living and breathing with this man, so can't nobody get to him. Baby, they can get to him all right. They might not have been able to get to him physically, but they did intimidate that ass. The gang allegedly goes and digs up one of the bodies that he had just buried and throwed it through a window of the funeral home that he was holed up in. Baby, y'all do understand. Case dismissed. Mortician ain't seen shit, ain't heard shit, and don't know shit no more. Baby, when I say these motherfuckers was accused of going on a serious, no holds barred, balls to the motherfucking wall, robbing and killing spree for like 2 whole years. Ooh-wee, Jesus. Like anybody they robbed got did it because they were a witness. Now again, I ain't going into all the robberations and killations that these niggas did because they weren't convicted of none of them. But let's just say, to try to quantify it a little bit for you, all my fingers and all my toes times 3 or 4, and I'm still coming up short. Baby, these motherfuckers was laying people down left, right, and sideways. It was a full-time job, and not just in Chicago. Oh, they was taking their show on the road too. Baby, this shit went on for like 2 good years. 2 good years strong before police was like, enough is a goddamn enough. We got to shut this gang shit down. And they came in and tried to put the pimp hand down. This is like summertime 1974 when they started rounding up motherfuckers on some of these crimes that they claimed they was out here committing, right? It's time to shut this motherfucking gang all the way down. But that was flawed because you cannot shut down a gang. You can take some members off the street, but there are other members willing to step in and take the place or be acting until the real people get back out. I mean, it's just a never ending thing, right? But they gotta try. So they went after the leader, Cochise. And again, flawed thinking that if you get the head, the rest of it will die. That's not how it works. There is a line of succession, honey. Again, somebody is always ready to take over. So when they grabbed up Cochise, saying that he is the head of the notorious street gang, and the gang was into selling dope and killing people and all of this, that, and the third in Illinois as well as Indiana. So it was kind of like a RICO charge before RICO was a thing. They ended up convicting Cochise, and he got like a 5-year bid to do, right? But see, here's the thing. What they didn't realize is that the gang, the royal family, they had a real smart ass dude that they called Jeepers that was like the inmate legal eagle. Like, Jeepers didn't have no degree, but this nigga ate law books for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and his smart ass helped get their cases thrown out or their sentences reduced. Like, think he's the prison Annalise Keating. He can tell you how to get away with murder. So yeah, the gang was getting locked up, but the sentences were light, so they was popping back out on the street like 3 years later. I mean, think about it, 3 years, that's just long enough to go take a refresher course on how to be a better criminal at Prison U. 1977, these dudes are starting to hit the streets again. And a street nigga gonna do what a street nigga gonna do. Right back to business as usual. Well, while some were getting ready to get out, we know that prison is a revolving door. And so on his way in was Murray Hooper, who had pled guilty to an attempted murderation in 1977. But since he was so nice and pled guilty, the state was quite lenient and only gave him 4 years for trying to take a motherfucker out the game. And even though Hoop had a rap sheet longer than a Walgreens receipt, you just gone on in and sit down for a minute and you'll be back out shortly. Before he got out on August 27th, 1979, Cochise, the leader, he gets his walking papers from prison and gets right back to work. And while he was down, Cochise done picked up some new work for the gang to handle. Remember I told you Cochise wanted to diversify. Well, now they gonna get paid for cutting a motherfucker's water off. Oh, yes, honey. Cochise had hooked up some shit with some people while he was locked down to take care of a couple of situations that required a certain set of skills, balls, and audacity with that wet work. I'm talking murder for hire. Cochise had a crew that would get that shit done. And baby, they did. Now, not too long after Cochise get out, Hoop comes out. Now, Hoop jumps in with both feet right back into the foolishness and fuckery of gang life on the outside. The last of the 3, William, he gets paroled in May of 1980 from Statesville. Now, William been locked up the longest, man. He been locked up for like 9 years and some change for a robberation type of situation. Again, that's one of the longer sentences, but it don't matter because William is a heavy hitter in the gang and he back on the free side of things. But again, ain't shit free and gang business never stops. So he got to get out here and get it how he live, and how he live is grimy as fuck. So please understand, the mayhem is loading. Now, even though the royal family has their hands in a little bit of everything criminalistic, their main pipeline of how everybody eats is that drug money. And the street pharmaceutical enterprises usually go on in the hood. And Cochise had put his headquarters right at 2240 South State Street in the Harold X, I think that's X or Ikes, ICKES. Y'all will tell me in the comments. X is what I'm going to go with. In the Harold X projects on the south side of Chicago, Cochise, they say, was moving in on another gang's territory. I know what gang they said, but not my business, so I ain't gonna even talk about it. Again, you can look for it yourself. So he's moving in on another gang's territory, and of course this brought more bloodshed to the hood as they fought with bullets over this plot of concrete and steel that belonged to the city. But you know, shit, I done told y'all, these niggas don't give a fuck. These are some real OGs, and they are down for gang wars. They take what they want, and these projects ain't gonna be no different. Rival crews and competition, they get dealt with. That's a part of gang life. And on November 12th, 1980, one of them type of situations where a competitor had to be dealt with came to light. Now, according to the street committee and the court documents, there were some dudes that wanted to buy some work in the projects because, you know, they were doing their thing, getting their weight up in their respective hoods. AKA, this is new competition for the royal family. Well, allegedly, Cochise and them got wind that these niggas was going to be coming to the projects for a re-up, and so it was decided that they needed to be dealt with. The dudes in question are known pharmaceutical salesmen. We're talking about 28-year-old Richard Holliman, 41-year-old R.C. Pettigrew, and 35-year-old Frederick Lacey. Now, they go to the re-up spot at 2240 South State Street, apartment 206, in the X Projects, which is firmly royal family territory, right? Don't let them go on in here without them knowing about it. Well, instead of the plug, they come face to face with Cochise, Hoop, and William, all of which got that real heat in their whole faces. So instead of being able to buy some dope, they ended up getting their pockets ran, and the next thing you know, Fred, Pettigrew, and Richard getting put in the back of a red Oldsmobile, and they driving over to the underpass by Roosevelt Road and Clark Street. Y'all know what I'm talking about, Chicagoans? Well, when they get there, they start playing a little game of who can catch the most lead. Man, the shit was brutal. Ooh, Lord, y'all. And then they just, after they get through, they leave them three men laying right there and just peel out with one of the homies, nigga named Morris Nellum, the getaway driver. We're gonna come back and talk about Morris's ass a little bit more a little bit later. But at this point in time, I need y'all to understand that this motherfucking killation that just happened was like all of 2 blocks away from the police headquarters. Not a precinct. I'm talking the goddamn headquarters. Where were all the policemen at? 2 blocks away and ain't nobody heard nothing? Like, this crime didn't go down in a building or nothing like that. Oh, no. These audacious motherfuckers was right outside shooting the shit out of 3 men at the same time, and nobody heard nothing at the cop shop 2 blocks away. Make that make sense? Well, the next day, when the police finally stumbled onto this crime scene, man, it was a mess. Fred was on the ground on the driver's side. He had been shot in the back of his head. Pettigrew, they say, was half under the front bumper. He had been shot in the face, the chest, the leg with a pistol, and 3 more times in the back with a shotgun. God damn. Oh, Lord. Now, Richard, he was in the back seat with his hands tied up. He had been shot 3 times in the chest and 1 time in the back of his neck. Good Lord, that's a whole lot of bullets. And a shotgun is loud as hell. You mean to tell me did nobody at the goddamn police headquarters hear a peep? Like, wasn't nobody pulling up or leaving, shift change, none of that? Wasn't nobody outside taking a smoke break? Again, this is the goddamn headquarters, and Chicago is not Mulberry where everything closed when the street lights come on. Man, if y'all don't get the fuck out of here, stop it, I say. So while the police, they didn't hear shit when the shit was going down, they did eventually piece together that Cochise, Hoop, and William were the shooters, and they are eventually charged with these 3 murders a few months later, which is the basis for this episode, these particular charges. But wait, there's more. Now, I need you to understand that, yeah, there are a gang of gangster motherfuckers, but they don't always do their dirt together, right? Sometimes they do a solo, sometimes they do a duet performance, like on December 2nd, 1980, when Hoop and William was in a shootout with some cats from the Disciples crew, allegedly. Bullets is flying everywhere, and I don't know if the victim was an intended target. Doesn't seem like she was. More like bad luck slip rock. A chick named Clarita Ladd, oh man, she got frizzled in the midst of all them flying bullets, y'all. Caught up in the wrong place, wrong motherfucking time, in between some of that Southside Chicago mayhem that was prone for going down at the time, sent Clarita ass right on to the upper room. And pause. If I hadn't said it before, let me say this real loud for the people in the back. Chicagoans, from the South Side that made it out relatively unscathed. God damn, y'all is built for it tough, honey. And I mean that shit, because I have been tiptoeing through the tales of criminality in Chicago from the 70s and 80s, and baby, the streets were no motherfucking joke back in the day. I mean, and I understand that present day Chicago will set some shit off, but you know, it appears that, you know, y'all show more restraint today than when the OGs was out there on the streets back in the day. Cause I still ain't done with the parts of the story that's on record, and good Lordy, Miss Claudia, the shit that I ain't spoke on. Man. Man. Well, okay, back to the story. Like I said, it took some time, but the police in Chicago, they kept at it. And finally, on February 21st, 1981, we're talking about 3 months later, the police in Chicago, Illinois, finally felt like they had enough evidence against Hoop, William, and Cochise for the killation of Richard Holloman, R.C. Pettigrew, and Frederick Lacey, the 3 pharmaceutical salesmen that were found underneath the overpass by the police station. Them 3, right? And yeah, even though it took about 3 months to put that case together against them, Cochise, he is already back on cell block C at Statesville for a parole violation. So when it was time to start locking folks up, they didn't have to look for Cochise. He was already state property. And guess what? Hoop was the reason he back in the clink, because when they scooped up Hoop, he started singing like the rent would do. Nigga, I thought y'all was so goddamn hard. Shit, they got to stacking them charges up on his ass and throwing out phrases like death penalty and shit, and Hoop was like, shit, it's every man for himself and God for us all. Hoop, you know how I feel about snitching. If you in the shit, keep your goddamn mouth closed. You was in the thick of it. Shut your ass up. Okay, so we know the police got proof that Hoop had some part in Clarita's untimely demise, and that William was probably there, but they don't think he deaded nobody on this particular day. So they throw Clarita's murder on Hoop at the same time as they hanging these 3 pharmaceutical salesmen's murderation on the 3 of them. So Hoop, William, and Cochise as a clique. So just to make sure you understand where we at now, the scorecard is Hoop got 4 murder charges, William got 3, Cochise got 3. But we still ain't done. Because guess what? Police, they got him in custody, but it ain't time to spike the ball yet. Because you see, with what we have right now, it's really law enforcement's word, you know, saying that you did this kind of a case. And of course, the defendants are going to say, we didn't do that. Where's your proof? Everybody except Hoop's good telling ass is going to be saying that, because Hoop telling everything. But you know, the gang still got that nigga Jeepers in the background working on loopholes. And I'm sure they got a good attorney that'll probably be able to get a nigga off, you know, reasonable doubt, because all of these people that they're being charged with, they're no longer in the land of the living. And if they gone, they can't get on the stand and corroborate the state's theory that William Bracey, Murray Cooper, and Roger Lee, aka Cochise, are some murderers that murdered them all. Dead men tell no tales. So the shit kinda iffy for the prosecution's case. But oh baby, they got a big joker to play that these 3 gang members don't really know about yet. Because you see, they did some dirt in Phoenix right after their shenanigans in Chicago with them 3 pharmaceutical sales reps. And baby, the Phoenix police is about to charge these niggas too. And their case is kinda airtight. Like I said, they finna slap the big joker on their forehead and talk cash shit. Well shit, Nay, what happened in Phoenix? Let me tell you. So, the Phoenix police get a tip from a hooker named Bendy. Bendy said that she was hired to entertain some hitters from Chicago. She did her thing and all, you know, but in the midst of the sexual transactions, the guys that she was performing for, they was talking about the job that they were in Phoenix to do. And now Bendy's scared that they're gonna come back and tie up a little loose end named Bendy, because they know she knows shit that she ain't supposed to know. And here is what she know about. See, what had happened was New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1980. Hoop, William, and a nigga named Edward McCall was put to work to go to Phoenix to handle some business, right? Now, Edward McCall, he is an ex-Phoenix police officer. Allegedly now, a man named Robert Cruz hired the royal family to send some hitters to Phoenix to go handle a little piece of situation that he had with a man, a sour creamian named Patrick Redden. Now, This is important because with regard to gang shit, it ain't many of the casserole brigade that catch that smoke unless you know it was a stray, right? But remember, Cochise was all about diversifying the criminal portfolio of the gang. And apparently Patrick, the white man in Phoenix, he into real estate and he got a piece of property that Robert Cruz wants. And Patrick ain't selling, so Robert Cruz decides it's more than one way to skin a cat. He's gonna get that property voluntarily or involuntary manslaughter. Patrick is expendable and he is about to be taken off the board. So Hoop, William, and Edward, the ex-policemen, they run up in Patrick's house. But it ain't just Patrick that's at home. His wife Marilyn and his 70-year-old mother-in-law Helen Phelps, they also at the crib. I mean, it's New Year's Eve. They are actually getting ready to go to a New Year's Eve party. Shit, not no more. Them plans have been totally canceled. Ain't no more New Year's Eve for y'all. Baby, remember, these audacious niggas don't believe in leaving no witnesses, right? So even though they are only there for Patrick, his wife Marilyn, and her mama Miss Helen, oh baby, their collateral damaging must be dealt with too. Baby, they frog marched them people through their house and made them give up all their jewelry, their money, anything like that. And when they got all their shit, marched them back to the master bedroom, laid them white folks down on the bed, bound and gagged them, and shot the shit out of them one by one. And if that wasn't bad enough to put some stank on it, after they shot Patrick, they cut his damn throat and took pictures so that the people that hired them would see that they give 110% when they do their thing. Ooh, Lord have mercy. After doing all this bullshit, they leave Patrick Redmond's house. But somebody ain't dead. Baby, Miss Marilyn must have had a praying grandmother because she, even though she was shot in the head, she ain't die. Man, this bitch didn't even lose consciousness. Oh no, honey, she laid there and played dead. She heard everything that was said, every name that was called, all that shit. And when they left, she hopped her blessed and highly favored ass up and called 911. Ooh, Lord. So when Bendy made that phone call after it all went down and it was all over the news, the Phoenix police put the pieces of the puzzle together and they came up with the Royal Family Gang from Chicago as the perps for the Redmond murderation and attempted murderation after Marilyn gave the names that she had heard them call each other. Well, first and foremost, Edward McCall, remember, he's an ex-police officer in Phoenix, so he was the first one to be taken down. Marilyn heard his whole name, gave them his whole name, so baby, they went and snatched Edward's ass up. Cause sir, you a whole ass ex-police officer, you ain't supposed to be caught up in no bullshit like this. Well, you know, it be them that think they super slick, right? So Edward, he calls a lawyer, this dude named Michael Pritzker. He want him to be his lawyer to get him out this shit, right? Now, Michael Pritzker is a lawyer in Chicago. He gonna come all the way to Phoenix to try to handle this business for Edward. Well, Pritzker tried his best, but my guy, Edward, baby, there's a witness. Not just any witness to your shenanigans, but a white woman witness. Shit, ain't nobody getting you off on this. It ain't gonna work. So when Pritzker couldn't get the charges dropped, that put a target on his back, you know, but I ain't really got no sympathy for him neither, cause shit, if you lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. So he go back to Chicago, thinking it's all said and done. He tried his best. He couldn't get his client off, moving on with life. Not too long after he failed at getting Edward McCall off, an unknown gunman attempted to cut his water off right outside his house. Now, Michael Pritzker know exactly who ordered the hit and who the gunman was, but he also know the rules of the game, and he didn't snitch. He let the gunman just ride on off into the sunset. He wouldn't tell on him, but baby, he dropped Edward McCall as a client real quick and got the fuck out of Chicago. You gotta let shit die down for a minute when motherfuckers trying to kill you. I'm just saying. So next up, they hooked up with the Chicago police and they explained the situation about what had went down in Phoenix. And Chicago was like, oh man, we just hit the lottery because that's what we need to stick it to Cochise, Hoop, and William. So they quickly went and scooped up Hoop at his Chicago apartment. And guess what? When they picked him up, they found a suitcase on him. Inside the suitcase was a baggage claim ticket from Phoenix for December. Okay, we got your ass. So, okay, that places that ass at the scene of the crime and backs up Bendy's claim. But once they got Hoop down in the box, he ends up dry snitching about that murder and said the only reason he did it was because Cochise told him to do it. That's how Cochise gets hit with the parole violation to hold his ass down while they finish making their cases on all three of them. Ooh, Hoop, you was an old dry snitching ass motherfucker. Next up, they go snatch up William Bracey. It wasn't hard. He was at the lounge getting his drink on. So, all three of them locked up. The Illinois grand jury, they indicted Cochise, Hoop, and William on February 23rd, 1981 for the murder of the three narcotic salesmen, and all three of them are held without bond. But shit, Cochise was already on a parole violation, so he wasn't going nowhere no time soon. So now, only thing they got to do is wait for their trial in Illinois. So the state of Illinois, they charged Cochise, William, and Hoop with murder, armed robbery, and aggravated kidnapping. But because Hoop had some additional shit to answer for, he didn't go to trial with Cochise and William. He was tried separately. Now, the trial started July 20th, 1981. And the state, they had a star witness that seen the whole thing go down. Y'all remember the getaway driver, the dude Morris Nellum? Baby, tell me why this motherfucker done turned witness for the state? Honey, but that shit came at a high cost because please understand, him and his entire family had to be put in witness protection and relocated out of the state of Illinois because y'all know snitches get found in ditches and they family too. Baby, that nigga got on the stand and sang like the rent was due. Ooh, he ran it all down about how Cochise had asked him to drive his Cadillac over to the spot underneath the viaduct at Roosevelt and Clark because he was gonna need a ride after he handled some business. He testified to how he knew the three men that was in town to re-up in the back seat of an Oldsmobile. He said William Bracey had drove his own car to the spot. He said when he got there, he heard shots and then he saw William Bracey run into his car with a sawed-off shotgun and peel out fast, and then Cochise ran up and jumped in the car with him, cussing and fussing about how he had told Hoop not to use a gun on them niggas because the police could trace that shit, but he wouldn't listen. Baby, Morris said he drove off and they went to Lake Michigan. Cochise threw a .38 and a .357 in the water, and then he gave Morris $125 and told him to be cool. Also known as shut your goddamn mouth, you ain't seen shit, you don't know shit. And he did for a long time until, he had to handle his business. So, okay, Mr. Nellum, I don't know about your criminalistic endeavors. I don't know if you was just somebody who was just a gopher from time to time, but you know how I feel about when you tell on folks and you was in the dirt. But we don't know if you was in the dirt, but still, that was a very dangerous situation to put yourself in, because to have to go to witness protection for you and your entire family, baby, them folks was coming for that neck. Well, with all this evidence, Cochise and William were found guilty on July 29th after the jury deliberated for like 3 hours. And so now it's on to the sentencing phase. And y'all know it take a little while to get to sentencing, so it wouldn't be around till September 10th of 1981 that we would get to the sentencing hearing. So like I said, September 1981, at the sentencing hearing, tell me why Marilyn Redmond, the lady that lived after getting shot in the head in Phoenix, her. She came and testified at the sentencing hearing about how cruel these niggas really were. Now, you gotta understand, at this point, the Phoenix case has not been tried, but they allowed her to testify not at the criminal trial, but at the sentencing part of the trial. Ooh, that's some dirty work. That's somebody that don't seem right. You talking about a crime that these people have not been convicted of, but you allowed to present it as fact. It was designed to make sure that William and Cochise got the maximum sentence that was allowed. And please understand, they did. After deliberating for like an hour, the jury came back with a disconnect notice for Cochise and William. Yes, honey, 33-year-old Roger Lee Cochise Collins and 39-year-old William Bracey were sentenced to fry in the electric chair by Judge Thomas J. Maloney. Now, when Judge Maloney gave them their death sentence, these ignorant motherfuckers, instead of standing there quietly and reflecting on what the fuck had brought them there, that's too much like right. No. These audacious motherfuckers, what they do? They burst out laughing. Like the funniest thing that they had ever heard in their life. I'm talking gut-wrenching, belly holding, tears rolling down your face, laughing out loud. Fuck you and your death sentence. Ooh, diabolical, baby. Baby, I'd have been on the floor crying, curled up in the fetal position. I didn't do it. I'm sorry, Please don't kill me. Baby, that's just diabolical, I tell you. In addition to the death penalty for the murders, Judge Maloney also gave them 60 years for the aggravated kidnapping and armed robbery. So just in case you fuck around and get resurrected, you still got 60 years to the door. But y'all know, as with any death penalty case, they appealed and appealed and appealed to no avail. Them charges stuck and that death penalty stuck too. Now, Hoop's good snitching ass finally went to trial in September of 1981, and he too was sentenced to frying old Sparky after they found him guilty as fuck as well. The jury was like, boy, bye. I'm talking about they was so shady. Tell me why they deliberated all of 15 minutes before they came back with his death penalty. Baby, the tea. In a stroke of luck, though, the governor commuted all the death sentences in Illinois to life, and this included these three dudes, right? But even though they got their death penalty in Illinois commuted to life in prison, let us not forget that we still got business to take care of in Phoenix, honey. You ain't skated just yet, my brother. So let's head to Phoenix. And in Phoenix, even though they did the dirt kind of together, the trials were split so that Hoop and William Bracey are being tried together, and then Edward McCall and Robert Cruz are being tried together. Now, Cochise was not charged because he wasn't there. I mean, even though he was there in the sense that, you know, the head of the crew, he was more like the dispatcher, sending the killers on a job when you really got no proof on it to hold him, so they didn't charge him. And even though Robert Cruz and Edward McCall were a part of this, they're not a part of our story like that. So we're going to focus on William and Hoop. And we know, like I said, that they were convicted in Chicago, but they have been cooling their heels at the Maricopa County Jail while they wait on their Phoenix trial to start, right? But please understand, Phoenix ain't just get them. They had to work out a deal with Illinois. And Illinois was like, look here, you can have these criminals until a verdict comes back in your case. And as soon as you get your verdict, you put their asses on a plane and you send their monkey asses back to Illinois the minute. I'm talking about the absolute second everything is said and done. So that was the deal, and Phoenix was like, bet, we're going to handle it. So the guys find themselves in Judge Cecil Patterson's courtroom on November 2nd, 1982. Now, they are charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, 3 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of armed robbery, 1 count of first-degree burglary. Now, the prosecution of this case is Joseph Lee Brownlee and Michael Jones, and their contention was, look, these niggas have already been convicted of the same shit like this in Illinois. And they were like, you know, in Phoenix, we have this thing called pecuniary gain, which is you got a bag for doing the fuckery that you did, and that's against the law. In this case, that would be the bounty that was paid to them to kill Patrick. The prosecution had evidence that William got a stack of Benjamins as an advance payment with a $50,000 final payout that was supposed to come after the job was done. Ooh, honey, this was a lot. Now, y'all know, Arizona don't play the motherfucking radio. If you should ever find yourself in front of a judge there is like a 110% chance that you're gonna be found guilty. And Hoop and Williams' defense was, we weren't even in Phoenix for New Year's Eve. We were in Chi-Town doing it up. We don't know nobody named Patrick, and we wouldn't hurt a fly, much less a white man that we don't know from Adam's house cat. Baby, the prosecution put Bendy the prostitute and, of course, Miss Marilyn, the woman that survived being shot in the head, on the stand. And the case went to the jury of 5 men and 7 women on December 23rd, 1982. They deliberated for all of 2 days before coming to a unanimous verdict on December 24th, 1982, guilty as charged. Merry Christmas, niggas. Sentencing was to be February 11th of 1983, and it's at this point that the defense, they tried one last Hail Mary. The defense was like, you know what? If you sentence them to death, that's just like you committing murder. And you don't want to do that, do you? Nice try, sir. But they came right on back with the death penalty for them first-degree murders, plus another 140 years for that other bullshit associated with this case. You know, just in case reincarnation is a thing. Now, As for Edward McCall, they guiltied his ass too because you were physically there on the scene and you were an ex-police officer. You got to die too. But as for Mr. Cruz, he was found guilty when it was tried at first and he was sentenced to death, but he won a new trial on appeal because, again, Mr. Cruz wasn't there. They said that Mr. Cruz paid them to facilitate the murder. They didn't have enough evidence for that, kind of like one of those no face, no case kind of situations. So Mr. Cruz ends up walking out of prison a free man, like nothing. So now that Hoop and William have finished their business in Phoenix, they are flown back to Illinois, as was worked out prior to their trial. Now, you might think that this is the end of the story, but you would be so wrong. Remember at the beginning I said that there was some legal shenanigans that happened that made this case interesting. And thus far, the only shenanigans have come from the gang members' activities in the streets. But wait till you hear this shit I'm finna lay on you now. So, the appeal process is rolling on for both cases, right? But in 2001, Cochise and William Bracey, they file an appeal to have their convictions in Illinois thrown out. Remember, the Phoenix case was kind of predicated on the bad acts committed in Illinois. So if they can get the Illinois cases tossed, then maybe they can go after their death sentences in Phoenix afterwards, right? So, Nate, what was the basis of the appeal? Well, normally it's just some bullshit to prolong the inevitable, right? But not in this case. Oh no, not this time. The appeal that Cochise and William were going after this time was that the judge that presided over their case was a criminal. Yes. Yes, honey, yes. How about that judge? Judge Thomas J. Maloney? This motherfucker was on the take. Like, for real on the take. Baby, he was found guilty of taking bribes while he was on the bench and letting real criminals walk if their money was right. Yes, this actually happened. He was slick with it. To keep suspicion down whenever he let somebody off, everybody who didn't pay them, he threw the book at their motherfucking ass, making it look like he was hard on crime. But he wasn't. He was on the take. The judge was convicted and sent to prison in 1993 for taking bribes. So Cochise and William, for their appeal, they are saying that they didn't get a fair trial from jump because the judge was a dirty, low-down sellout to the highest bidder. And since he wasn't right, if they had known that they could have just shot him some bread to get off, they would have done that and there wouldn't have been a conviction against them. I'm just saying, to me, this is a valid argument. Yes, they are guilty as fuck. No lie, no doubt. But understand, if they knew that they had the opportunity to pay off the judge, hell yeah, they would have done that shit. And they would have gotten off, as would anybody who is in a criminal court case. If you know you finna fry, you ain't even got to be able to fry. If you know you finna get some time and you just don't want to go to prison, if you knew that you could pay the judge off to not be convicted, come on, man. We talk like this, right? Come on now. So that's the base of their appeal. And it ain't right, but they kind of got a leg to stand on. You think? I mean, a dirty judge that has been tried and convicted of being dirty, that means everybody's cases should get a new trial. But see, here's where the shit in the game come. See, to do it like that, the right way, that's too much like right. So basically what the appeal court said was, if you can prove Judge Maloney was biased in your particular case, then yeah, your rights were violated. Go get us some evidence to that effect and we'll take it from there. But if you can't prove that he was biased in your case specifically, then that sucks for you. So in the end, even though their argument was a valid one, there was no way for them to prove that the judge was specifically biased against them. So the court was like, look, corruption alone is not enough. Unless you can prove Judge Maloney targeted y'all in your case, your conviction stands. Woo! Now, there was one judge on the appeal board, Judge Rovner. He said that he felt like the whole thing was a setup. He wrote in his dissent, the whole thing stinks. A dirty judge equals not a fair trial. Period. They deserve a do-over. But Judge Rovner, he's in the minority, and he was overruled by the majority. So Cochise and Williams' verdict stuck. Ooh, god damn, Nay. That's a whole lot of. So where the fuck they at now? That's a good question, New Orleans Nation. I got a couple of answers. As to the head of the gang, Roger Lee Collins, a.k.a. Cochise, a.k.a. the Godfather, I have to assume that he is dead because there is not anything on record within the Department of Corrections for the state of Illinois for him, and that only happens when they have exited the building permanently. So at some point, Cochise went on to the gangster's paradise, which is probably on the lower floors, if you know what I'm saying. Not a footnote anywhere lists his date of death, and I guess that's fitting. I mean, he did a lot of dirt in his life. If what was written on him was true, we don't even need no more ink on you, bro. Well, your boy William Bracey, he was convicted of murdering people for the murders in Illinois, right? And even though, so your boy William Bracey's convicted murdering ass, who was supposed to be killed in Illinois, and his sentence was commuted, but we know that Arizona was still waiting to fry his ass. Well, he died of natural causes before Arizona got the chance to. He two-stepped his ass right on to hell, April of 2005, at the ripe young age of 63 years old. Man, I know Arizona was pissed because they don't like to miss an opportunity to disconnect a motherfucker. But while they didn't get their lick back on William, they did cut that nigga Murray Hooper's water all the way off. It took him 42 years, but I guess it's better late than never, huh? Yeah, Arizona roasted his marshmallow November 16th, 2022. Gave him that jab of forever night juice and sent his ass right on to the lower room. And that, New Orleans Nation, is the story of Roger Lee Collins, a.k.a. Cochise, William Bracey, and Murray Hooper. Oh, my Lord. You know, I'm glad I did this story because it is audacious and it needed to be heard, even though I had to censor myself a little bit. But as a matter of context, I just wanted to speak a little bit on why I don't cover gang-related cases. I mean, everybody knows that the gangs commit serial shenanigans. They kill, they rob, and sometimes there's a sexual assault component. You know, the whole get jumped in or sexed in initiations or whatever. But for me, what separates the gang activities from an individual mayhem maker is that the gang is like a job. And most times the crimes are committed by order of a boss. And it's the gang member, he or she is a worker that's carrying out a criminal act, because if they don't, they might end up the next victim. So to me, that's different than, say, the individual mayhem maker that is killing and raping because that's the shit he or she likes to do. Does that make sense? I mean, I get it. It's all crime. But most times with gangs, they do violent shit to each other. And sometimes innocent bystanders get caught by a stray. The individual mayhem makers, they look for innocent people to prey on the regular, right? The gang is loud and in your face when they do shit. You may not know exactly who the trigger man or trigger woman was, but you know it was some gang shit. That individual mayhem maker is undercover and is trying their best to hide their evil doings. You know, the gang, in most cases, is entrenched in the hood. And if you live in the hood, you know who the gang members are because they don't try to hide their identity. They rep that shit loud and proud. But that individual killer that kills and raper that rapes, they can be your next door neighbor, your frat brother, your sorority sister, your coworker, your church member, and you would never know that they had those kind of tendencies. So again, that's why I focus on the individual mayhem makers instead of gang-related shenanigans, unless there's like a twist or a gotcha that makes something that they did or went through a lot more interesting, like having a crooked judge in the mix. With regard to the royal family and the things that they did, there is a whole hell of a lot that I left out, glossed over, and just outright omitted. And I encourage you to go down the rabbit hole for yourselves to see all of the shit that the royal family and our 3 featured members were into. It's all out there for your reading pleasure. Now, before I let you go, I got a question for you, New Orleans Nation. A little something for you to chew on and get your thoughts together about. Now, I'm a Christian. Black Jesus is my homeboy, and his daddy is my daddy too. Now, not to get all religious or whatever, because this ain't that kind of podcast, but speaking in generality, all religions or faiths have some sort of tenet of forgiveness that their higher power bestows upon those that seeks forgiveness, right? Repent or show remorse and say you're sorry, and you can be square with the house again. So all of that to say, I bring this up because I wrestle with that. You know, we talk about this especially in like the last 3-4 episodes, we talk about how motherfuckers always find the Lord when they stuck in a box for the rest of their life. And that just don't sit right with me, that a murdering murderer that murdered and a raping rapist that raped and an aggressive aggressor that aggressed can just say, my bad, I won't do it no more, and all is forgiven. Like, when I get to heaven, I'ma feel some kind of way if Alton Brown or Samuel Little or Lorenzo Gilliard or Chester Turner or any of these other motherfuckers that we done talked about that fucked up everybody they came across as viciously and mercilessly as possible are kicking it in heaven with me. I mean, you mean to tell me I might bump into one of these killing motherfuckers at the JJ's in heaven? What? Oh, come on now. Y'all know Black Jesus got chicken in heaven. Stop it. I mean, I don't want to be frolicking in the Garden of Eden and run into Mark Goudreau's good raping and killing ass. But my faith says that any of these thanking motherfuckers can repent and confess and believe, and then they too are forgiven. I mean, I guess that's why God is God, or Allah is Allah, or Buddha is Buddha, or brother man, whoever the higher power is in your life is the higher power. Because my little human mind, I might be able to forgive to a certain extent, but I for damn sure can't forget. I mean, forgetting is how you get fucked up. Think about it, New Orleans Nation. When I get to heaven, I don't want to have to stay ready, but I'm gonna have to stay ready if it's a bunch of these motherfuckers that we thought was gonna bust hell wide open, if they up in the number one more time talking about how they changed. Ooh, fix it, Jesus. But you know, then again, God don't play. And I guess they could fuck around and find out the hard way that he know how to put that thing on you immediately if you on that bullshit behind the pearly gates. Cause you can't lie to God. You know, he know everything before you do it. So I guess, you know, if you think about it like that, heaven probably got the best neighborhood watch there could ever be. But I'm gonna tell you, for myself, I sure would feel more comfortable if they were all contained in their own little slice of heaven, you know, segregation at its finest. What y'all think? Like, are you cool taking communion for eternity with the motherfucker that offed your people? Just a little something for you to chew on and let's talk about on social media this week. I can't wait to hear what y'all got to say about this one. Y'all know all the ways to holler at your girl. On IG, Facebook, and YouTube, I'm Melanin Mayhem Podcast, and on X, I am Melanin Mayhem PC. The email is melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com if you want to drop me a line that way. However you want to send me smoke signal, I don't care. Send it to me. I want it and I'm catching it. My DMs are open, baby. So this week's New Orleans Nation shout out goes to M.L. Ponsil, who left a review on Spotify. M.L. said, "Nay, you really be having me in tears. You gotta make your own dictionary. Flower Rangers, Paper Plate Nation," and a bunch of just laughing faces. Thank you, ML, for your praise. Y'all know I'm not wrapped too tight, but I try to keep my mouth under control today because I ain't want no gang smoke. Thank you so much, ML, for listening and leaving me a review. I love you for it. So, okay, y'all know what this means. It's time for me to get in the kitchen and cut this thing up a little bit. And y'all know the routine now, how we close out the show by heart. So y'all gone on ahead and be safe and stay vigilant. And just remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And hopefully we won't have to stay ready in heaven. It's one love, New Orleans Nation, and the country girl is out of here. Mwah.
Woo-wee, Nana, you did that.